One of the most uncomfortable things that can happen in your life is when you are in the situation that you are kind of paralyzed and there is nothing that you can do about something. Probably an adversity has come your way and you do not know what to do, and you find yourself seated waiting for someone else to change so that you can succeed. One of my mentors says that one of the worst things that can happen in your life is to wait for somebody else to change so that you can be able to succeed, and that's a bad thing to happen in your life. And today I want us to discuss that subject, one of those things that are important in life, and I've titled this podcast episode, What to Do While You Are Waiting for a Breakthrough. What do you do when you are in the process of waiting for your breakthrough? Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Life Signatures podcast with Lawrence Namale. Lawrence is a life coach, author, and keynote speaker who loves to tackle different topics on purpose, productivity, and resilience. His mission in life is to awaken all your boundless possibilities available in you. Life Signatures podcast is dedicated to bring to reality every single person who knows that deep down in their gut, there's got to be more to life than this. And now, here is your host, Lawrence Namale.
Honestly, so much has been said and so much has been written about the subject of adversity, and we can go on and talk about it, but today the only thing that I wanted us to look at is this: what do you do while you are waiting to get out of your adversity? And to be honest with you, adversities normally come. This guy called Napoleon Hill, he wrote a book, Think and Grow Rich. And in this book, he says that adversities, they come clothed with equal or better benefit. And we need to look at adversities from that angle, that at times when they do come, they don't come just to wear us down. And I'm going to give you a few quotes here and there concerning adversities. And the first thing that I'm going to quote is by Sarah Cannon, who reports the following. She says, Disney, CNN, MTV, Hyatt, Burger King, FedEx, Microsoft, Apple, Gillette, AT&T, Texas Instruments, 20th Century Fox, IBM, Mark, Hershey's, IHOP, LA Lilly, Coors, Bristol Myers, Sun, Amgem, the Jim Henson Company, LexisNexis, Autodesk, Adobe, Cimatec, Electronic Arts, Fortune, General Electric, and Hewlett-Packard. These are iconic companies, were all formed during periods of an economic recession. These iconic companies were all formed during periods of economic recession. And so you can see that there is some kind of beauty that comes out of adversity. But look at the inherent message in Sarah Cannon's quote. She says that these iconic companies were formed during a recession. That tells us that you can do something when an adversity is on your end. You can do something when things are not working, when you're in a crisis or when you're in a setback, and you have no idea that what which you do might lead to something beautiful at the end of the day. There's a beauty that is attached to an adversity if we knew what to do with adversities when they do hit us. I don't know, maybe I have no clue if there is anyone on the face of the earth that doesn't have an adversity or hasn't gone through an adversity, whether you're highborn or lowborn, whether you're from the royal family or from a pauper family. All of us at one point in time, we are going to face an adversity. In fact, there's someone who said something so sobering. They said, you're either from an adversity or you're walking right into an adversity. So at one point in time, our lives are punctuated with a setback, with a crisis, with an adversity of one nature or another. And I've learned that an adversity or a challenge is inherently a call to greatness. It is a call to greatness. Greatness sometimes, or maybe even for the most times, it is born out of a challenge. It is born out of overcoming a crisis. One of my success definitions has to do with mastery of challenges, mastery of crisis. In other words, when you are becoming a master of a particular crisis that has come your way, that's the way that you become successful. That's the way that you gain greatness. You gain something every time you overcome. You gain something every time you go through, and the key word there is to go through. There is this thing, however, that normally when an adversity comes your way, there is this illusion, and I talked about illusions in the past episode. There's this illusion that comes to you that you cannot do anything. You are incapacitated, you are paralyzed, you are out of options. And that's one of the biggest lies on adversity, is that you have no options when an adversity hits your way. You basically do have options. It's just that you are used to the previous level you were at, and now seemingly those options that you had at that level are taken away. You feel like you do not have options when the adversity has hit you. The point is that you do have options. But the lie is that when an adversity comes your way, is that you cannot do anything apart from waiting for it, apart from looking for help, apart from sorting that adversity out. You cannot ignore it, but you can just sit back and wait on it until it goes. That is not necessarily the thing that you're supposed to do. There are some creative things, productive things that you can put into place during the moment of your adversity. And those things can be psychological, they can be spiritual, they can be mental, they can be actually physical actions that you take while the adversity is in there. And I talk about a lot of these things in my book, Turn Your Setbacks into Major Comebacks. And I've learned that an adversity or a challenge is inherently a call for you to be a greater person. It doesn't look like it is when it is coming your way. Actually, there's someone who say that opportunity disguises itself in the name of work, and it comes dressed with overalls. And so you feel like there is no opportunity when an adversity is coming, but there is. In fact, in a previous episode, we talked about the definition of a crisis. A crisis has inside of it an opportunity for good. Without a challenge, without an adversity, there seldom will be a platform to celebrate victories. And we need to celebrate victories. And I'm not talking necessarily about negative adversities or negative challenges. There are some things that we can impute upon ourselves, and we can go forth and become victorious on them, and in such a way we become great. So I read a quote from a friend of mine called Anthony Gitonga. He's written a very nice book called Made for Greatness. He says there's a lot of difference between what we won't do and what we can't do. Think about that for a minute. Especially when you're going through an adversity, there's a big difference about what you won't do and what you cannot do. What you will not do and what you cannot do are totally two different things. What we won't do will keep us from our greatness a lot more than what we can't do. Ultimately, choices and not abilities are our greatest hindrances to lasting success. I know it feels like, we are just being motivational and we're just drumming this message home, but the point is this: there is something that you can do if you look carefully during an adversity, or when an adversity visits your home, or when you face a setback. Instead of sitting back and waiting on it, instead of sitting back and relaxing, and maybe not relaxing, but just sitting back and outwaiting the adversity, there are things that you can actually put into place as the adversity is going on. The greatest lesson shared in my book is that when an adversity hits you, you need to put a mindset of abundance instead of a mindset of scarcity, because every moment, I guarantee you, every moment you face adversity, you think scarcity. You don't think abundance, and that's just the natural disposition of the human being. And adversity mostly takes away things from you. You see, so it's not natural for you to start thinking about abundance. It takes away money. It takes away a loved one. It takes away an opportunity. It takes away a contract. It takes away your relationship. It takes away your psyche. It ultimately eats away on your self-esteem. And consequently, you tend to shrink back from doing something, and you just lay back and you say you're not going to do anything. You're going to outweigh the adversity. The greatest lesson I shared is that in the wake of a setback, find something to do. Find anything to do. And I keep going back to that example. In one of my adversities, the only thing I could do, guess what it was to go out and jog on an empty stomach. That was something. But you see, the moment you sit back, that's what you're doing to reinforce the message, like we shared in the previous episode, the message that the adversity or the illusion or the interpretation of the adversity is communicating. That you are useless, that you are not good enough, that you will amount to nothing. And so you sit and you outweigh the adversity. But what you're doing, actually, you are cementing the negative connotations that have come through that adversity. It does not have to be, what you do does not have to be directly related to you getting a breakthrough. People normally think when an adversity comes, I must counter it head on. Anything that I do must be something that, has to be removing or facing the adversity head on and removing it from my life. Not necessarily. Sometimes you cannot do that. Sometimes there is nothing you can do to directly counter the adversity, but there is something that you can do indirectly to keep in motion, to communicate to your psyche that you are still alive. I have already shared on this podcast that there is a medical term called apoptosis, which means that when you are doing nothing, the brain sends signals to the rest of the body that they are no longer needed. They are no longer needed in service. And so in that way, people, events, companies, people start shrinking and people start dying naturally. This explains the idea of people who are normally retirees. You find that there's a very big death toll on retirees than those people who are working. See, when you are doing something with your life, the mind is activated and it keeps shooting chemicals throughout the body that you are needed, that strength is needed, that vitality is needed, that vision is needed, that you need to keep going. And so the brain supports you. But if you do nothing, especially when you're facing an adversity, you are cementing the negative message of the hardship, and you're making the hardship actually bigger or seemingly illusionary bigger than it seemingly is. Find something. Find anything that you can put your hands on. It can be something to do with your mind, and at times when you're going through the adversity, the mind is the biggest engine that needs to be serviced. Find something that you can do with your mind and engage them. Don't put your mind on autopilot, because normally during an adversity, very many suggestions that are in the negative in nature, are going on in your mind. They are telling you that you will never make it. You can't even visualize to see how the future is going to be better. There is no hope for the future sometimes when you're going through an adversity. And so you need to engage the mind and treat the mind and service the mind. Find something that you can listen to. Find something that is encouraging, something that speaks hope, something that speaks inspiration, something that speaks motivation. Find people who have gone through maybe worse or the same kind of situation that you're going through, and listen to their story and watch their movies and hear what they have written, read what they have written, and get your mind to have a particular different mindset that, hey, wait a minute, it's not as bad as it seems to be, or I am more powerful than this, or there's potential inside of me, or this too shall pass. Get some inspirational messages from people who have gone through it, or people who have faced worse situations and they have actually come out of it. And then go to your body. The worst you can do when you are facing an adversity is to be sedentary, is to be out of motion. You're not moving, you're not working, you're not doing anything, you are just sitting there. See, when you do that, that's the worst. You are building an illusion that you are in a bigger mess than you actually are, and you will start shrinking from life if you're not careful. And you need also maybe to look at your spirit. What can you do to your spirit? It just has to be something that puts your mind to action. When that happens, a signal is sent to your body, your brain, and ultimately the world that you are in will realize, wait a minute, this man is not checking out. This man is still around. But you see, when you count yourself out, the brain counts you out, and also the world itself counts you out. I have realized that there is a lot of grace from people when they see a man who is going through an adversity, refusing, standing hands akimbo, and refusing to bow down to the adversity, but facing it head on, or going on with life, or doing something just to keep being in circulation. See, that is the medicine that I took. When I face adversities, I prescribe myself some activity to do, and it works like magic. Listen, the adversity, the setback, the crisis might not go back, might not go away. The moment you start doing something about it, it might stay. But guess who is growing? Guess who is changing? Guess who is developing? Guess who is being fortified? Guess who is being strengthened? It is not the person who is sitting there whining and doing nothing. It is the person who is doing something, whether directly related to the adversity or indirectly connected to the adversity. They are doing something with their life. And I know I'm being sadistic, or I might sound like I'm being sadistic here. I might sound like I need to give you some kind of soothing message that tells you, oh, you deserve to sit back, you deserve to outweigh this adversity, you deserve to do this and you deserve to do that. Maybe that's what you're supposed to do, but I'm not going to tell you that is going to give you the ticket out of this. That is not the best medicine out of an adversity. Arthur Golden Myers said something like this in the memory of Geisha, said, adversity is like a strong wind. I don't mean that it holds us back from places we might otherwise go. It also tears away from us all the things that cannot be torn, so that afterward we see ourselves as we really are, and not merely as we would like to be. That's what an adversity does for us. But you see, it does that to the degree that we are doing something. Find something to fortify yourself. Someone said, out of tragedy and adversity come great blessings. And he says, I shudder to think of what I would have been if I had not gone through prison. Adversity can be God's refining fire. This is Chuck Colson. And also a man called Noah St. John says, sure, listening to your fears will keep you safe, but it will also keep you stuck. So find something you can do even when a crisis is in the offing, even when a crisis is continuing in your life at the moment. Find something you can do, any activity you can get engaged in. If you cannot do it alone, find people that you can be able to do it with them, and maybe find something you can do that can help somebody else. In so doing, that man in the mirror is being strengthened, is being fortified, is being made a mighty person even against the adversity that you're facing. And I'm going to go back and tell you what I have just quoted from Sarah Cannon. She said this. She said, Disney, CNN, MTV, Hyatt, Burger King, FedEx, Microsoft, Apple, Gillette, AT&T, Texas Instruments, 20th Century Fox, IBM, Hewlett-Packard, the Jim Henson Company, LexisNexis, Autodesk, Adobe, Cimatech, General Electric, and all these major companies were all founded during periods of the recession. What can you find in your recession? What can you find in your
Thank you
setback?
for listening to
It
Life
can be
Signatures Radio.
something
If you
if you
enjoyed
put yourself
today's show,
onto it.
subscribe to Life
Thank you for
Signatures
listening.
Radio on
Bye-bye.
iTunes, Stitcher, or visit our website at lifesignatures.libsyn.com. Life Signatures Radio, fresh, clean, and inspiring.